The tank trade-in event on World of Tanks console is one of the things that I've really not liked about the events that come into the game, and there's a specific reason that I'd like to cover in today's video, and also provide you with the opportunity to actually work out whether or not it is actually worth it for you. I've actually got a calculator so you can figure out exactly whether or not you should actually purchase the tank. But the tank trade-in event, what does this event actually do? Well, this is an event that we've covered, and often I say that it isn't worth it, but I'm going to actually showcase why. And that is because the tank trade-in event in design is that you trade in a vehicle that you already get to be able to get a discount on a vehicle that you will be getting out of the event. So you trade in a vehicle, you go towards a vehicle that you want, and essentially it discounts that vehicle, and then you purchase the rest of that tank with the gold value. So for example, we're going to pick a couple of examples here as to what this actually means in reality, because there's a bit of news that we can cover as well towards the end of this video that I will be doing as well. But the trade-in event is the kind of key primary thing that I feel like everyone should at least know about before they end up going and using this event. So first things first, you get a whole list of premium tanks that you can trade in as part of the trade-in event, hence it's called trade-in. You can basically get a ton of premium tanks, almost, well, pretty much most of the premium tanks that are in the game are going to be able to trade in as part of the event. Not every single one, but a lot of them. And you can see here you've got the Swedish, you've got Czechoslovakian, and there's a ton of tanks in each one. Now note that there is a lot more for the common nations. You can see here the Soviet tanks, there's an absolute ton of them, French tanks, British tanks, blah blah blah, but we're going to pick some examples in a minute as to what they are. And then the trade up list is what you can actually get out of the event, and you can actually go into the game and you'll see on the premium tech tree tab in the tech tree tab of the game, and you filter by premium tanks, you'll be able to actually see exactly which ones are available. They do have a green kind of circular symbol that essentially tells you that they're part of the trade-in event, and then you select a tank that you want to trade in and it will give you a discount on that tank, which you can essentially pay the rest of the gold to purchase. The whole point of this is we've set up a document so you guys can actually work out how much gold it's going to cost you, the cumulative cost of what it actually is to get the end vehicle that you end up with, and kind of what you desire from this event. So the trade up list, we have a variety of different tanks. You've got the Hellcat 105, the broken one, we've got the Concept 1B, all sorts of vehicles. There's a ton of them, but there's certainly not as many as what you see with the trade in list, which is what keeps some of these vehicles a little bit rarer, and you can just trade in tanks however you want to. And you'll see that there is a ton of them, and you can pause the video as we go through to see exactly what is in the trade in list if you're interested. So I will scroll slowly here so you can pause as you see fit if you've got a tank that you're particularly in mind. But as far as some ones that I would recommend as tanks that are very overpowered, you've got the Hellcat 105, the Concept 1B is quite a fun tank. You have things like the Nomad is pretty good, the Vanguard ELC even 90 is a good tank. You've got the T95 FE 4201 Chieftain, which is the tier 10, that's a pretty cool tank. You've got things like the Yahtzee WZ121 GFT, which is a brilliant one, the Draugen Lance and C, another brilliant one. And then you've got the Ariete Progetto M35 Mod 46, which is the Progetto 3546. And then you've got a variety of different Cold War vehicles in there as well. But let's get down to the nitty gritty of what this event actually does and why it kind of sucks, and why I always recommend to avoid this event from trading in your tanks, because there's one key flaw with this whole event in its entirety. Now then, take for example the Mauer Breaker, which is part of the event that you can trade in. this is essentially the value of the tank. 11,500 gold is what you can convert this tank into, which is then used for the calculation by Wargaming, which is 50% of the value from this tank will go towards a tank in the trade up list, which is this list down here. And these tanks all have set prices that you'll be able to purchase them for. So if we take a T95 FE 4201 Chieftain, you can see it has a price of 22,500 gold. So if we use this little spreadsheet that I've made, and I will make it available for you guys to actually use as well, but I will make sure to jump over to that now. We can use these values, the 11,500 for the Marrow Breaker and the 22,500 for the T95 FE 4201 Chieftain, and you can see what the results are from that. So if you're looking at this event in its isolation and actually purchasing vehicles using the trade-in event, there are a few key things that you'll want to know. Is it worth it actually trading in my tank to be able to get a discount on a vehicle? So this value right here, which we can see, I'll highlight it in yellow. This is the tank that you're trading in. This is the value of the tank that you're trading in. And because Wargaming value this tank as a essentially 50%, this is the value that you'll get out, which is marked in blue. So this is how much you'll actually go towards the next tank. And then this value here, the 22,500, this correlates to the value of the tank that you're trading up to. So essentially you'll get 5,750 gold knocked off the price of the 22,500 if you wanted to get the T95 FE 4201 Chieftain. Yeah, that gives you a discount of 26%, which is very, very low, and actually is much lower than what you would see with any of the other vehicles when they do go on sale within the game. Don't also forget that you have traded in a vehicle that is quite expensive to actually purchase in the first place, and you will never ever be able to use this tank unless you repurchase it as part of the game. Now this is okay if you never are gonna ever play the tank that you're trading in, but if you are, or you think that it might be something you want to use in the future, essentially you've traded in a tank for 5,000 gold and you got a 26% discount on the tank that you wanted. So for me, 26% of a discount is nowhere near worth actually trading in a vehicle. Essentially, most of the discounts that you're going to get as part of the game, just by having vehicles come on discount every week, it's often 30%. And when you consider that you're trading in a tank to get a lower discount, yeah, it's pretty stupid that you would want to actually do that. So 26% discount, not worth it in my opinion, which is where this is kind of not a thing that I would ever recommend to anyone playing this game, trading in a tank to be able to get a discount on a tank. And still, you would have to fork out the rest of the gold value to be able to actually purchase this tank. So with that being said, essentially you are paying a grand total, if we were to add an extra column in here, just so that you guys can understand, is the total cost to purchase, which I can work out here, and that should be this minus this. That's the gold value that you are actually going to have to pay if you want to be able to purchase the vehicle. So this is the additional gold that you will need on your account to purchase the FE 4201 Chieftain. 16,750 will make it a slightly less horrible color, and there you go. This is the value that you are going to have to pay if you want this tank. 16,750 gold, equating to about £40. So not only have you removed one tank that you can no longer play, but you're also having to pay about £40 to get the next, or the trade up vehicle. So yeah, bit of a weird one, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend ever doing that. But yeah, I don't know why Wargaming decided that this would be a great idea, but they did. And of course, that's something that if you are wondering if it is worth it, just work out the percentage using this calculator and then figure out for yourself whether you think that you should actually trade in. However, that being said, what you can do is you can pick up a tank like the Hellcat 105 HMC, which is also a trade-up vehicle that you can get. And this one costs a base value of 3,550 gold. So if we pop this in here, 3,550, you will see that the cost to purchase this tank is minus 2,200 gold. So you will actually get paid 2,200 gold back from trading in your Mauer Breaker. Now, obviously you're getting a tier 6 instead of a tier 8, but you are getting a bit of the gold value back. This is where it becomes potentially worth it for you to pick up a vehicle like this. However, you are still having to pay for the Mauer Breaker in its beginning, and you're also then having to essentially fork out for the Hellcat 105 HMC. So you're still paying for the Mauer Breaker, you're then getting half the value of the Mauer Breaker, and then you're getting 2,200 gold back. So it's still very expensive, but this is one of the things that if you are guaranteed that you're never going to play the tank again, potentially this could be something worth it, getting some gold back as well as getting a new vehicle that you can test out. So you can see the disparity between picking a very expensive tank as your trade up versus picking a cheaper vehicle. Now, obviously, this completely depends on how much gold the original tank is. So if you had 7,000, obviously you're going to only have to pay 50 gold. And most medium tanks are probably sitting around 8,000 gold as a tier 8. So be aware of that. And of course, you can save yourself a bit of gold, and the discount is much better. So it really depends on what the actual cost of the tank is. And that is really going to be dependent on whether or not it's worth it. So even picking a 10,000 gold vehicle, which is a tier 8 heavy tank roughly as a price, but you can work it out yourself. You can go on the website, you can find out how much it actually costs if you're interested. And yeah, that only gives you a 40% discount. Remember that sometimes vehicles will go on sale for 50% off as well. So just be aware of that 40% seems like a decent amount, but of course you are trading in your tank, and it will often come up as a 50% discount during the year. So there is often opportunities to pick up vehicles for 50% off their original gold price. So just be aware of that if you are thinking about purchasing a tank like this, and just making up your mind that, you know, maybe it's not worth ever having that original tank and it might be worth it. So this is where I feel like the trading event can be a bit disingenuous with how good it is, and often people see that they can get a tank for free, but remember, you've still had to purchase that this tank in the beginning. However, there is one special case which you might want to think about. If you, for example, have a vehicle that you already own but is part of an operation or a contract, you can actually find that you can use the trade-in event to get rid of a tank that you already own if it's in the trade-in list, and that will basically mean that you can essentially get a tank for free. So what you could do, say if you had the Mauer Breaker and it was part of a contract, well, what you could do is you could trade in the Mauer Breaker for a vehicle like the Hellcat 105, for example, costing 3,500, plus you get a bit of gold back, and then you get the Mauer Breaker again because you've got the contract. So you end up with the same tank back, plus you get the Hellcat 105. So a brilliant way of using the trade-in event for your own good, and probably one of the only reasons I would ever use the trade-in event personally, which is why I've never traded in a vehicle to my knowledge on this game. Maybe I did 7 years ago, I don't know, but I'm almost certain that I have never used a trade-in event because it is not very well thought out in terms of how much it's going to cost you. So if you want to be frugal, you want to save yourself some money, the best thing to do is, if you know that you're going to get another tank that you already own out of a contract, an operation, a challenge, a season pass, then yeah, if they are available in the trade-in list, then you want to make sure that you do trade it in before you get that tank back. Otherwise, you often just get the silver equivalent of that tank. So just be aware of that if you are interested in actually picking up some tanks. So this is something that I wanted to cover. The trade-in event, not particularly one of my favorite events in there, and I definitely feel it's a bit disingenuous with what it actually is intended to do, which is to get a new tank. But if you are interested and you wanted to find out more, yeah, I will leave a link to this spreadsheet. It's a very basic one. You guys can probably work it out yourself, but I thought I'd leave it there just as if anyone wants a quick way of being able to do it. It'll just be a Google Docs that you can use. But that isn't it for this news video, or at least this video in its entirety, because there is a few things that you can actually do, which is there is a couple of other bits for the news. So this week we have got the perfect 10, which is, can you master the art of destroying vehicles? If you destroy 10 vehicles daily, you earn an additional 1000 XP. Nothing too spectacular there. You got Armed Forces Day, which is May 18th, celebrating the contribution of those who served in the US Armed Forces. Find a store bundle with all the emblems for this day included. And then Tankfest, which we covered in a specific video. So if you want to see what Tankfest is all about, you can have a look at that video, which I will leave a link on the screen right now for. But hopefully this video gave you an indication of the event, which is the trade-in event, and I would like to call it the fake-in event because I don't think it's particularly good. But other than that, hopefully you enjoyed this video and at least found it informative or guides you as to what you can use this event for, which is basically putting in tanks that you know you're going to get again, and getting some tanks for free back. So with that being said, if you want to see some more content, there'll be some on screen, including the Tankfest video, and I will see you in the next one. Have a great rest of the day, and I will see you there. Goodbye.